Welcome back, everyone, to the Moms Like Me podcast powered by Support Now. We're on a roll. We have recorded so many episodes lately, and it makes me so excited because I find that these conversations really build off of one another. So if you haven't listened to previous episodes, I recommend it because there's so much value that comes from listening to each of these moms. Their journeys are unique, but there's also a little bit of overlap that I think becomes very valuable to supporters that want to show up differently for the people they love. But today's episode will be no doubt a wonderful one. I'm joined today by Dina Besic. I was introduced to Dina, honestly, because she's a customer and a family on our Support Now platform. So these opportunities to connect with our customers are so special to me because we know that every person that has a Support Now registry are also real families in the thick of it all. So today's conversation will be really centered around Dina's experience with her little boy, Max, and his journey with cancer. And my hope is that each of you walk away with not just being inspired by Dina's story, but again, really thinking about what can I do differently to help the people I love going through cancer or things of that sort. So Dina, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. So Dina, I mentioned it earlier, but you came to us and we became familiar with your story through your son, Max, leukemia diagnosis. I believe it's ALL. So first of all, I'd love to hear from you in your own words. What happened? How did you know, or how did you begin to feel suspicious that something might be off and things needed to be taken a closer look at?
Yeah, absolutely. So it was spring of 2023 and something I'll never forget, but Max was just sick for an entire week and he had 105 fever, which was just so out of his baseline. And honestly, something in my mama gut was like, gosh, something is just off and something is wrong. So that week that he was sick, he was either every day at the pediatrician's or at the pediatric urgent care, just trying to get his fever regulated. And then he just kept complaining about his tummy. And I told my husband, Sanat, I'm like, you know what? Let's take him to the ER. I feel like he either needs some antibiotics. I'm like, something is just off. Let's just go and take him to the hospital. And it was March of 2023 to be exact, that we took him to the emergency room. And that is where he was diagnosed with leukemia that same night.
And how old was he?
He was only 2 years old.
Wow. So they was it blood tests? How did they find out? What was the process once you got admitted into the ER? I mean, sometimes I hear when we talk to cancer families that it takes a long time to get a diagnosis. It takes a long time to actually know that something is more significant than it might appear. In this case, it looks like you kind of got to a conclusion relatively quickly.
Yeah, and that was also so hard to process because I knew something was off. Never thought it was this, but they did a ton of tests. They did a CT scan. And Max also had these little spots around his ears and around kind of his jawline. And reflecting back, the doctor was kind of looking at those and I was like, because he looked a little concerned. I'm like, oh, are those okay? And he was like, we're just going to do a lot of tests just to make sure. And I was like, okay. And again, I didn't really think anything of it. And I think between the spots, which are very common as kind of a sign of leukemia, and his blood work came back, Jordan, he had absolutely no immune system. He was at zero. So,
Wow.
and, unfortunately, that kind of, gave his diagnosis pretty quickly. And the ER doctor said to me in these exact words, because I will remember them for the rest of my life, but he said, we suspect your son has leukemia. You are being admitted to the pediatric ICU tonight.
Wow.
And I just remember my husband and I might cry again. I'm always crying here or on the internet somewhere, but
Tears are encouraged. It shows that you're human.
yeah,
We
absolutely. But yeah, I looked over at my husband and I just started screaming, Jordan, because I'm like, there's no way, right? And I saw him kind of, just start bawling too. And I've never seen my husband honestly cry like that.
Ugh. The way you're describing it, I mean, again, it was dramatic, and it felt like I can see it, like the way that you're describing it. What do you remember about those early moments? Was it rage? Was it sadness? Was
Yeah.
it shock? I mean, I'm sure in some degree it was a combination of all of them. But how do you look back on those early moments, and what were the emotions running through your body?
Yeah. I think anger was especially in those like first few weeks. I was so angry, Jordan. So Max is really special. We had a long journey to get pregnant, and Max was our rainbow baby. He's also born on our wedding anniversary. So he is just like this.
He's a blessing.
He's such a blessing. He's like the cutest little kid. He's the best little kid. And I'm like, I why? Right? I mean, it's not fair. It is not fair to absolutely anyone. But I'm like, this is the boy that I prayed for. This is the boy I've wanted for all these years, and I finally have him. So I remember when Max was diagnosed, or when the ER doctor said those words, I was actually holding him because he had fallen asleep on me. And I just held him like so tight. And I was just like, why? Like, why would you do this? So there was a lot of just anger. And then I remember when we were admitted to the pediatric ICU upstairs, I just sat there, Jordan. The room was moving, and I just sat there. And it was the most like confusing, angry thing that I've ever gone through in my entire life.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like what you're describing, it was just, like, completely gutting. It's like
It's
you're so mad and you don't even know what to do, so you just shut down
Mhm.
to a degree.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I imagine that you're feeling these very strong, very reasonable emotions, and there are a series of questions and decisions that are being asked of you. So how did you collect yourself, and what was your process to figure out, okay, I'm angry, I'm upset,
Mhm.
I'm not in a good place, and I still need to move things forward to make this the best possible outcome for him and for us as we can.
I remember going into the bathroom because I didn't want Max to necessarily see me like this either, right? And I was just like bawling in there. And my husband came in, and we were just like sitting on the bathroom floor of that hospital. And he was like, Dina, the only way to do this is to go through it. I've got to do this for Maxie. And we prayed on that bathroom floor together. And I said, okay. And we literally got up at the same time, and we're like, let's go. So I think I'm so lucky in the support of Sanad, and we're complete opposites, probably why it kind of works too. But I think we picked each other up, and like the moments when we were the weakest, like he was. I'm telling you, I've never seen my husband cry like he did in that ER, and then we've been together like 15 years, right? And I've never seen him like that. And when I needed him to pick me up, he did. And when he needed to pick me up, he got that from me. So I think that was like so important because Max is still in treatment. When we notice that one of us like really needs that support, is that like we look for that and we're like, hey, are you good? So we picked each other up that night, and we're like, we just got to, there's nowhere else but to go through it. Like, we got to do this for Max.
I really love kind of what you're sharing, because I think that when you get a diagnosis like this, it affects everybody. And so many people want to help. And it seems like for you, and I've heard this from others, that the support that you most need is your partner. It's a you and your partner have to be in lockstep with each other. You have to be able to read each other. You have to be able to understand what one's feeling, and how and when to kind of push push you forward, and how and when just to sit and let you cry. And this is where I'm so passionate about partnerships in general. Like, who you marry, I always say, is like 95% of the happiness that you will experience in life, because it's just that important. But you're so perfectly articulating why that's true, because it's not even the happy times. Like, your partner the significance of having the right partner for these moments is critical for your own self-worth, for your own ability to like wake up in the morning and still make decisions.
Absolutely. And I mean, gosh, like just looking back and, you know, the hospital is asking you to sign these things like, this medication, can cause death. And like, there's people in like hazmat suits giving your child like, this medication. And I remember so often like Sanad would just like put his hand on my shoulder, right? Because I also watched Max be in the hospital for 33 days. And for his weight, he went from being like a 90 percentile to a 60 percentile. I watched my child like essentially
Sure.
like shrink, and he had to learn how to like rewalk.
Ugh.
And it was like those
Ugh.
moments when Sanad was just he would just put his hand on my shoulder, and I could just like feel his like positive energy. I don't know where he got the energy from, right? Because he was watching his child go through the exact same thing as I was, but it's, I think being there for each other and recognizing, mind you, our journey has not been perfect, right? Like it has been a
Sure, of
long two
course
and a
not.
half years, but we really tried to like pause. I think that's like the biggest thing is truly taking a pause because everything also just it's like bizarre. It happens fast but slow. I can never like describe that, but it's just truly pausing and being like, "Hey, are you good?"
So, Dina, what were the things in the early days, aside from your husband, who sounds like
Mhm,
was your rock?
mhm.
What were the things that were valuable to you that gave you that hope, that gave you that spirit to keep going? And I asked that question again because something like childhood cancer, it's so traumatic. Everyone is so eager to step in to do something. Meanwhile, it's kind of like an inverse relationship. Everyone wants to help you and you don't want to talk to anybody. So, how does one like break through to someone like you so that you feel like you're not alone while also not feeling responsible to answer to everybody?
So, I always like whenever I can share this, I take the opportunity, but I don't think I will ever be like the same as a person, as a mom. Like a childhood cancer diagnosis like really changes like who you are. Like it truly rocks your world. So, I always say for anyone that that is going through this, like just be there for them, right? And I know everyone is a little bit different, but my one friend, her name is Z. Hi Z. Uh I know she'll be listening to this because she's just like the best friend ever. But she just sent me a simple text and she's like, "What does support look like? What do you need?" She's like, "Don't text me now, text me when you're ready. Text me at 1 o'clock in the morning, text me at 2 p.m." So I think there is value in just like the person that is going through truly something life changing, just ask them, right? And if they don't answer, they don't answer. But if you hear from them later, you hear from them later. So, I think there's a bit of like transparency sometimes that happens. But in those early days, she does it till now, even as Max is like nearing kind of end of treatment. She's like, what do you guys need now? Right? Because everything changes from day to day
Right, it evolves. It evolves,
all the
absolutely.
time. So I really appreciated that in the beginning. And honestly, just like the accolade of like your village just showing up, right? And I appreciate that so much. And what that looked like for us is I remember very clearly my one friend Emma, she came to the hospital. She just brought me Starbucks. I'm a coffee girl. I got my coffee cup right here. She's full. She just brought me coffee just so I can step away from the hospital room and then just be downstairs with her and have a cup of coffee and not talk about
Yeah,
like what
and a
just,
steak.
you know, and I wanted to hear like how are things with her? Support looked like also we had so many wonderful friends that just brought us dinner to the hospital and there was like, Sanad and I's like favorite things just so that we can continue to fuel us. So it's like our village was fueling us so that we could fuel Max. And I'm literally getting goosebumps. I'm probably gonna cry again because that meant so much because we absolutely had to be, we like you have to be good to help your child. And it's like our village just fueled us between the coffee, the food, the snacks, and honestly just like whatever else we needed. Our little girl was 6 months old at the time. So we also needed support in making sure that she's well taken care of and our village really showed up and continues to.
So, Dina, for those that you've kind of alluded to this, where is Max on his journey today?
So he is nearing the end of treatment, which we are so excited to close that chapter. He is doing a few rounds of immunotherapy right now, which is really exciting. It's a new immunotherapy that just came out last year that was approved for children. I always just talk about how there's not a lot of treatment options for kids.
Hmm.
We're really grateful that this option is now available because it takes his cancer survival rate from 95% to 97%. So we were like, absolutely, yes, add this. So he's going through a couple rounds of that where he's essentially hooked up to an IV 24/7 for 28 days
Wow.
in a row. And then we have a couple months of treatment after that. But then we are all done.
Amazing. Amazing. I like what you said earlier. It's like time's going so fast and so slow at the same time. And it makes
Wild.
sense just given, this is a year long, you've been in this for a couple of years
Mhm.
now. I mean, but every day I'm sure it's like 5 steps forward, 2 steps back, 1 step forward, 1 step back. And Dina, you have another child, you have a job, you also created this amazing nonprofit. I'm trying to understand, like, are you just the type of person that's like, I have to fill in my time some way or else I'm going just just lose it? Or like
Yeah.
how are you finding that space to work on these other things?
I know people I you're not the only one with that response. People are like, "Are you silly? Are you crazy? Which one?" But, uh, so Maxwell's Toy Box was just put in my heart, and honestly, what started as a toy drive that we did for the hospital where Max is being treated at, because we just spent so much time in that, playroom, and Max was like, "Mama, we need a train here," and I'm like, this playroom does need a train in here. So, what started as kind of a toy drive with our, awesome family and friends turned into a whole nonprofit organization. And Jordan, it has just brought me so much joy, and it's just like such an honor to be able to lead this nonprofit and to have the opportunity to connect with the greatest kids, in my opinion, and, the best families, in the world. It's just there's always, room for joy, I say. So that really is kinda what Maxwell's Toy Box, really means to me.
So I know you said it started as a toy drive. Give more detail. How does it work? How do people find out about you? All the things.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can check us out on maxwellstoybox.com. We started our nonprofit officially in January of 2024, and our mission is to provide comfort to children undergoing cancer treatment by delivering toys and really creating moments of happiness so we can really foster resilience and support their journey to recovery. Because on average, kids go through 2 to 4 years of treatment. And we really found that, as a cancer family, there was just some gaps. So we are really trying to kind of close those gaps and really create a very positive patient experience for kids and families going through really any diagnosis. So we deliver toys to hospitals, and then we also have joy packages that we deliver during chemo days so that we can keep encouraging kids because they just go through so much. But we also take care of the rest of the family. So we take care of siblings by giving them joy packages. And then we want to be the village that shows up for the parents that we got. So we try to fuel parents with just some joy packages for them in the form of coffee because that fuels the world, I think. And then just different financial support that we try to help.
Dina, one of the things that I just want to lean into a little bit more. We had mentioned it earlier on the podcast, but I think it's so important. When a cancer diagnosis happens, people immediately think of the child going through the cancer. But it is really easy to forget that it affects the entire unit, including that sibling.
Mm.
That, and in this case, you had a very young child who couldn't necessarily make sense of it, but their children are sponges. They're aware enough to know that something's off. And so what I love about what y'all are doing is it really does bring the siblings into this to make them feel that they're supported as well, even if they can't quite understand the gravity of what's going on around them. To me, it's a small thing, but it's an important way of teaching a kid that they're just as important, because I'd imagine the balance of your energy and your time is so difficult. Because here you have one kid battling cancer, you have another kid that you just had. You love them both the same, but it's such a bizarre time to be a mom. And so I think that this program just in some ways reduces a little bit of that overwhelm for parents that are trying to figure out, how do I show that I love my kids
Mm.
equally, even if one child might need me a little bit differently in this season of life.
Yeah. I just did a blog post on our website, and I call the siblings the heroes of childhood cancer because they are such a like support system too. So Max's best friend is Lena, right? So, she has kind of had to, stay back with him, and they have each other, right? So they really are the heroes. And I remember, Max would get something, and I'd always have something like on the side for Lena just to make sure, that she felt special and, like in a way, like part of it too, right? So that she never feels like, oh gosh, Max is getting like all the attention and things like that. So that's really what we
Love
try
that.
to help families as much as we can.
One kind of beginning last question. It's not the last, but what's the thing that you're most looking forward to
Yeah.
after this is done?
I look forward to, God willing, when we are done with treatment, like when he is just done with everything, when his port is out, like everything, for us to just like go on a family vacation and just have like a normal, don't worry about counts, don't worry about, did you bring all the medication? Did you bring the syringe? Did you bring the pill crusher? Just like all those things that our lives have in the last 2.5 years, and just let Max and Lena be kids. Because I watched them do so much the last 2.5 years that just to have that normal for just, even if it's a couple of days, like I just look forward to, like in a way, just like getting their innocence back and just enjoy the beach, those babies, they're beach babies. So that I just so look forward to that.
Well, I hope you get that. I hope you get that. You and your family are more than deserving, and you remind me, you remind everyone that not to take those opportunities for granted, not to take your health for granted, not to take those moments of innocence for granted, because life on a dime can change very quickly. And every moment that we get to hold our precious babies and be under one house, under one roof, whether at the beach, at the mountains, or just in your home, it's a blessing. And I think you know this. We live in this culture where you're constantly told you need more, more, more. And for you all, you were so quickly reminded so early, so harshly in your parenting journey that the only thing you want, the only thing you need are healthy babies. That's it.
Absolutely.
That's it. And so I so admire how you've chosen to move forward. And I also admire and respect, Dina, the fact that you were so honest today around the anger that you felt, because I think it shines a light that it's okay not to move from shock into, we're going to figure this out. Like, you had to process your own anger and you had to say, why me? And I think that's also really normal. And so I'm very confident that your experience is already, and your willingness to share your experience is already a blessing to others that unfortunately will have to walk through this. And I'm so grateful for the opportunity to get to know you, and I cannot wait for the update of Max ringing that bell, and
Oh,
hopefully the many pictures of y'all on a beach and wherever of your choosing, and hopefully just many more cancer-free moments to come. So thank you so, so much for joining us today. And then I wanted to give you one last opportunity. Where can people find about Maxwell's toy box if they want to give, or if they want to implement this in their own hospital, in their own community? Where can they find you?
Yeah, absolutely. And Jordan, thank you so much for having me. So you can go to maxwellstoybox.com. We can help you set up to do a birthday fundraiser for us or a toy drive, and all the ways that you can help. We also just really appreciate everyone following us along on social media and sharing our story. We're a small but mighty nonprofit, and just really appreciate any support that way too.
Dina, thank you so much. I look forward to more conversations together.
Thank you, Jordan.